So just imagine with me that the people who are in your world, that you work with, that you live with, the people in your family, your friends, the people you spend time with, the people you just bump into at the food store or at the gas station. We all carry around within us the design of who is meant to come out into the world. And we want to get to that person. And I want to give that person. So as we've talked about the false self, it's a labor of sorts. It's an ongoing who I am and who I'm meant to be, and I'm sort of shedding that skin. So in my last short little video, we talked about this. I was talking about how like what unique part of the design I bring into the world is bits of who God made me to be, but also who he is. So I said I wanted to get practical. And how do I bring this? Not only how do I bring this truth self, how do I even get in touch with this true self, right? This brilliant idea of God's that while you were in the womb, he's coming up with these ideas. He's got all this detail and personality and quirks, interests and talents and goodness in us coming out into the world. Well, I'm going to mention what I think are the primary ways in which we can, like the little work we can do to get in touch with this true self, and also how to identify when we're sort of functioning out of our false self or what that false self is. And it's just a few things that I want to share. Pay attention to our habits, right? Pay attention to the bent of how we spend our time. So what is it that washes over us, right? Like that stone that you find in the river that's the edges are smoothed over. There's something that washes over us. There's something that's shaping us. And the more that goes in, the more I find I think this way. I respond this way. I believe these things about people, about the world, about God, right? It's the habit forming shaping of us. It's the influences that really bend and mold us into the direction of the false or true self. James K. A. Smith wrote a book I would highly recommend called You Are What You Love, because these habits and rhythms in our lives begin to form who we are, and they become very innate. The second thing I would say is pay attention to that self-protection. There's a default in us when we feel vulnerable in any kind of way, we go into self-protection mode. And what are those self-protection habits? What are those ways in which we self-protect, whether it be I go cognitive or I withdraw or I lash out or I blame shift? The third thing is, what vows have I made? You know, when we're younger and whatever turmoil or difficulties or vulnerabilities we experience, we often will say, I will never fill in the blank, or I will always fill in the blank. These are a reaction to some things that we experience. But when we dig our heels in, we become extreme in a way and we commit to something that probably needs to be more in the middle. So there are vows. These are kind of silent vows. You're not going to see that you actually stood out in the wind and made this vow, but more that internally and subconsciously we made a vow. In light of that, the last thing I want to mention is we have to kind of drift back, not in a judgmental way, but in a curious way. What about our family of origin? What did we think we needed to be? What kinds of ways what kinds of names were put on us with perfectionism or holding everything together, or you're always the screw up, or you're the black sheep, or what are the things we adopted from our family of origin? They could have been generations long. And it's important to look at those things too, because these are all the different ways that we sort of garner this false self. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into these four things. And if that's something that you feel curious about, a little bit of further thinking you want to do with that, take it a little bit to the next level, I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper video on this. And you can do two things, one of two things. You can either go to my YouTube page and subscribe, and you will get an automatic update when that video comes out. You'll know it by its title. And if not, you can go to my website, dawn-woods.com. You can go to the contact part of my website and just fill it out. An email will come to me and I will make sure you get on a list that will be informed when this video comes out. It's a good work to do. We don't want to live out all our days not being who we were intended to be.